Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're exploring a truly profound piece of philosophy derived from a beautiful Khmer text. We're calling it The Wealth of Appreciation. It's a short, but honestly incredibly powerful read that forces us to completely reevaluate exactly how we measure our own success and happiness. If you've ever felt like you're somehow falling behind, or that what you have just isn't quite enough, well, this explainer is exactly for you. We're going to break down the core themes of this text, and I promise you, by the end of this, your perspective is absolutely going to shift. So let's get started.
Is your life a perfect 10? I want you to really think about that for a second. We live in a modern world that constantly, literally all day long, bombards us with images of absolute perfection. You know the ones: perfect homes, perfect vacations, perfect careers. It creates this massive illusion of inadequacy, doesn't it? We get so hyper-focused on the gap between where we are right now and that elusive perfect 10 that we develop this really toxic habit of constantly looking at what we lack. We complain, we stress out, and we kind of forget to actually live. But the text we're analyzing today challenges this mindset head-on by asking us to fundamentally shift our gaze, building this into a really practical, everyday framework.
And this brilliantly illustrates our first real shift in perspective, starting with the literal roof over our heads. Think about how often we complain about our living spaces. Maybe you think your house isn't big enough or tall enough, or maybe the kitchen is just too cramped, or you wish you had higher ceilings. But the source material asks us to just hit pause for a second. While we're sitting there frustrated by the square footage of our home, there are people out there right now who would consider that exact same space an absolute, unimaginable luxury simply because they lack basic shelter entirely. They might never ever have the chance to even stay in a house. It's a stark, really humbling contrast that immediately reframes our daily complaints.
Now apply that exact same logic to what's sitting right there on our plates. How often have you looked into a completely full refrigerator, staring at food you think is just too simple or ordinary, and thought, there's absolutely nothing to eat? We get tired of our routines, and we complain about mundane or repetitive meals. Yet this text brings us right back down to earth. That boring, everyday meal, that is an absolute feast to someone facing starvation, or to those who might not even have the chance to eat every meal, let alone actually choose what they want to eat. The sheer fact that we have the privilege to get bored with our food is a massive blessing in and of itself.
And, beyond just basic survival, this perspective completely reframes our opportunities. Things like education. If you're a student right now, or even if you just remember your school days, you absolutely know the feeling of being totally overwhelmed by studies you think are incredibly hard. The exams, the essays, the early mornings, it often feels like a massive, unfair burden. But what's really fascinating here is how this philosophy flips that entire narrative upside down. The burden of difficult studies is actually an immense privilege. There are millions of people who are completely denied the opportunity to learn, who might never have the chance to attend school like you do. That frustration you feel when you're studying, it's literally a luxury born from an opportunity that so many will just never get to experience. So, let's round this out and talk about our careers. We've all had days where we just dread the morning commute, or we feel like the work we're doing is painfully boring and exhausting. But let's apply the text's logic here to your own professional life. While you might be intensely frustrated by a tedious job or maybe a really annoying boss, someone else out there is experiencing the deep, crushing desperation of unemployment. They might not ever have the chance to do the job you're doing right now, and they are actively praying for the very position that you are complaining about. Having a way to earn a living, even if it's not your absolute dream job, is an incredible foundation that we far too often take for granted.
So the crucial point is right here. If you want to compare yourself with others, you should look at people who have less than you. Now, human beings are naturally wired to compare, right? It's just what we do. But society tells us to always look up, to look at the billionaires, the influencers, the people with the bigger houses and the better jobs. The text, however, argues something radically different. It says that if you have these basic opportunities, a home, food, and education, a job, you should rejoice. By intentionally looking at those who have less, we replace our envy with profound gratitude. It tells us to work hard, yes, absolutely, but to do so from a place of deep appreciation, not from a place of constant nagging lack.
Let's take this realization just one step further. Look, your life is probably not a perfect 10. Mine isn't either. Maybe you're dealing with stress, piling bills, personal setbacks, or even health issues. But when you apply this new perspective, you realize your life is still vastly better than brothers and sisters around the world who are literally just asking to survive day by day. The space between imperfect and desperate is incredibly vast. We spend so much of our finite energy worrying about not being at a perfect 10 that we completely forget how unbelievably fortunate we are just to be on the scale at all. Which leads us to the ultimate takeaway from this incredible piece of writing. Be grateful and happy for what you have. True wealth, it turns out, isn't measured in the square footage of your house or the prestige of your job title. The wealth of appreciation means truly understanding that your current blessings are enough to spark genuine happiness right now in this very moment. If you have a roof, a meal, a chance to learn, and a chance to work, you are already profoundly wealthy. The text strongly encourages us to embrace this gratitude deeply, because when you are genuinely grateful for what you have, you stop chasing those exhausting illusions and you start actually living a rich, fulfilling life.
Now, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question. How will you view your life tomorrow? I mean, really think about it. When you wake up and your alarm goes off and you have to go to that job or eat that regular breakfast, how are you going to see it? Are you going to view it through a lens of scarcity, focusing only on the things you don't have? Or are you going to make a permanent conscious shift to a mindset of abundance? The choice is entirely yours. Keep this perspective in mind as you step into your day tomorrow.
Please, quick like, share my channel and comment for more videos. Many thanks.